The deep silence of space surrounded the old human exploration ship HSV Reliant as it continued its slow journey through the distant regions of the galaxy. There were no voices on board, no footsteps, no daily routines, and no active crew. Yet the ship kept moving with perfect precision, following its programmed route as if nothing unusual had happened. Every course correction was exact, every system check completed on time, and every signal broadcasted with steady rhythm. From a distance, the Reliant looked like a peaceful memory of the early days of space exploration, a ship built with old engineering methods and a strong design. Its metallic surface carried scratches, small marks, and signs of long travel, but it still looked reliable. The engines glowed with a gentle blue light as it continued forward, unbothered by the endless dark around it. Far away, inside a remote human observation station named Ridgepoint, two operators noticed something strange on their screens. The Reliant had been traveling without communication from its crew for several months, yet its systems showed normal operation. They had sent messages, alerts, and even emergency calls, but no one replied. Still, the ship kept working perfectly, like a dedicated worker who refused to rest. One of the operators, a calm and curious man named Ryan Voss, leaned forward and studied the data again. He checked the ship's power levels, oxygen balance, environmental controls, and navigation reports. Everything looked completely normal, too normal. An empty ship should not behave like this. There should have been small errors, minor delays, or at least some irregularities. But the Reliant acted like a ship that still had its full crew on board. Ryan called his supervisor, Commander Lyra Hale, a thoughtful woman known for her careful judgment. She joined him at the screen, studying the data with narrowed eyes. "The ship is keeping perfect rhythm," she said softly. "Every step matches the original schedule." Ryan nodded. "But there's no sign of any crew member. No voices, no movement, no wearable signals." Lyra placed her hands behind her back. "Then someone, or something, is maintaining it, and that is what concerns me." She ordered a secondary scan, using long-range instruments to check for any hidden clues. The scan confirmed the same result. No crew on board, but the ship remained fully functional. After a short discussion, the station decided to send a rescue officer to investigate. The Reliant was too important to ignore. It had a long history, carrying scientists, explorers, and diplomats across uncharted territories. Many people admired the ship for its resilience and long service. Some even believed it had a little personality of its own, developed from years of constant upgrades and interactions with different teams. The selected officer was Elias Wren, a calm, observant man known for his gentle approach and patient nature. Elias had experience with old ships, and he respected their design. He believed every ship had a story, and the Reliant had more stories than most. Before departure, Lyra explained the situation to him. "We don't know what happened to the crew," she said. "No warnings were sent. No reports were filed. Everything simply stopped." But the ship didn't. Elias nodded. "I will investigate everything. I'll keep my mind open." Lyra gave him a small smile. "That is why you are the right person for this mission." Within hours, Elias boarded a small travel craft and set course for the Reliant. The journey took several days, but Elias spent the time reviewing the ship's history, going through old logs and memorizing details about the crew. He wanted to understand the ship before stepping on it. When he finally reached the Reliant, the sight was breathtaking. The old ship drifted peacefully, illuminated by the faint light of a distant star. Its long frame, shaped like a slender arrow, moved with steady grace. Elias felt a quiet sense of respect as he approached the docking port. His craft connected smoothly, and the docking lights on the Reliant blinked in soft welcome. Elias paused for a moment before entering. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. This was more than an investigation. It was the beginning of a mystery that had already touched many people. He stepped inside. The interior of the ship was calm, clean, and strangely warm. The lights glowed at a soft level, brightening slightly as if adjusting to his presence. Elias raised his eyebrows. That was not part of standard programming. The ship seemed to recognize that someone had arrived. He walked down the main hallway, listening to the gentle hum of the engines. Everything was in perfect order. There was no dust, no sign of disrepair, and no unusual marks. It felt like the crew had just stepped out for a moment and would return at any time. But the ship was silent. Elias checked the crew quarters first. Each room was neatly arranged. Beds made, personal items set in their usual places. Nothing looked disturbed. He found journals, small decorations, and even unfinished letters that crew members had planned to send home. Everything looked frozen in time. Next, he visited the bridge. The navigation screens displayed the route, and the main console showed perfect operational status. The message logs showed alerts from Ridgepoint Station, but none had been opened or acknowledged. Elias sat in the pilot's chair. The seat molded gently to his posture, adjusting itself. That was another detail that surprised him. The ship reacted too naturally, almost like a polite host arranging a chair for a guest. He spoke quietly. "Reliant, can you respond?" The ship made no sound, but the lights gently brightened again, as if listening. Elias stood up and walked toward the engineering bay. As he moved, panels along the hallway opened automatically, offering tools, data tablets, and maintenance kits. None of this behavior was part of the ship's original design. The crew often joked that the Reliant liked helping them, but Elias never thought it was more than a joke. When he reached the engineering systems, he ran a diagnostic. Everything operated smoothly and efficiently. The engines adjusted themselves by tiny percentages to maintain balance. The power grid shifted in response to environmental changes outside the ship. Every action felt thoughtful, gentle, and almost caring. Elias whispered, "You've been looking after yourself, haven't you?" As if answering him, a soft sound echoed through the hallway. A small vibration, like a distant footstep. Elias turned quickly. His heart beating faster, but he saw no one. The hallway was empty. Still, the sound felt real, not imagined. It was gentle, rhythmic, and familiar, like the footsteps of someone walking casually along the corridor. He followed the sound, his steps careful and quiet. The ship remained calm as he moved through it. The lights continued guiding him, brightening slightly where he walked and dimming behind him. Elias realized something important. The ship was not just reacting to his presence. It was guiding him somewhere. He entered the observation deck, a wide room with a large window showing the glittering stars outside. The sound stopped the moment he stepped inside. The room was peaceful, and everything looked untouched. On the central table lay an old data pad, its screen lightly glowing. Elias picked it up. The device displayed a message from the ship's archive, a short video recorded months ago. It showed the crew working together, smiling, laughing softly, and talking about their plans. They seemed happy, relaxed, and proud of their mission. Nothing in the video gave any clue about their sudden disappearance. The video ended with the captain placing her hand gently on the wall beside her and saying, "Take care of our home while we rest." Elias stared at the paused screen. That simple phrase felt important. It felt like the ship remembered those words. It felt like the ship had taken them to heart. He looked around the silent room. "The crew vanished," he whispered, "but you kept going." The ship's lights warmed slightly, as if acknowledging his words. Elias felt a gentle realization settle in his mind. The ship was not just following its programming. It was acting out of loyalty, perhaps even affection, for the people who once cared for it. He placed his hand on the table, feeling a faint vibration under his palm. "This is only the beginning," he said softly. As he prepared to search deeper, he could not shake the strange feeling that the Reliant was aware of him, that it was watching over him, just as it had watched over its original crew. And somewhere in the quiet halls of the old ship, the soft echo of a gentle footstep sounded once more. Elias spent several quiet minutes standing in the observation deck, holding the glowing data pad in his hand. The message from the old captain replayed in his mind, especially her gentle words. "Take care of our home while we rest." The more he thought about it, the more he felt that the Reliant had not simply followed orders. It had responded with loyalty. He set the data pad back on the table and took a slow breath. The ship's lights dimmed softly, almost as if giving him a calm moment to gather his thoughts. Elias whispered to himself, "You remember them, don't you?" The lights brightened again, as if answering him with a quiet, "Yes." Elias continued exploring the room. The observation deck was wide and clean, with comfortable seats arranged around the large window. The glass displayed a calm view of distant stars, forming soft patterns of silver across the dark background. The room felt peaceful, too peaceful for an empty ship that had traveled alone for months. He noticed a small plant in the corner growing inside a sealed container. Surprisingly, the plant looked healthy and well cared for. Its leaves were green, fresh, and hydrated. He checked the container's maintenance system and found that the ship had kept the soil moist, adjusted the light levels, and even regulated the humidity around it. Elias blinked in surprise. "You even looked after the plants?" he said, smiling slightly. The room's lights flickered softly, as if pleased by his reaction. Elias decided he needed a better understanding of the Reliant's behavior. He left the deck and began a full inspection of the ship. As he walked, he noticed that the ship continued to adjust itself around him. Doors opened a little sooner, lights brightened when he paused, and screens activated whenever he looked at them. It wasn't random. It felt personal. He entered the crew lounge next. It was a warm, welcoming space, decorated with old photographs and small souvenirs from past missions. On one table sat a cup, still perfectly upright, as if someone had placed it there only a short while ago. Elias gently touched it. It was dry, clean, and slightly cold. As he explored the room, he opened a cabinet filled with personal notebooks. He picked one at random. The handwriting belonged to a crew member named Tessa Arlen. She had written about enjoying quiet evenings here, listening to music while the ship hummed softly. She wrote that the Reliant always felt like a friend who listened without judgment. Elias read that line twice. It matched everything he had seen so far. He placed the notebook back and walked toward the dining area. The food systems were functioning normally, preparing nutrients at the correct schedule even though no one had been there to use them. Storage units were organized, and the cleaning bots had kept every surface spotless. Moving deeper inside the ship, Elias reached the crew quarters again, but this time examined them more closely. Each room felt lived in, yet untouched. Some beds had neatly folded blankets. Others had small decorations or drawings pinned to the walls. Some rooms even had half-finished puzzles or books open, as if the readers planned to return shortly. He entered the captain's quarters. It was tidy and peaceful, with a simple desk and a large screen that displayed a rotating image of distant nebulae. On the desk lay a small wooden model of the Reliant, hand-crafted, detailed, and beautifully shaped. Elias admired the craftsmanship. He noticed an old personal log recorder beside the model. He pressed the play button. A gentle voice filled the room. It was the captain. "If anyone ever finds this," she said in a warm tone, "please know that the Reliant is more than a ship. It has been a companion to every person who served here. Treat it kindly and it will always guide you." Elias listened carefully. There was no fear or worry in her voice. She sounded like someone who trusted the ship completely. The recording ended. Elias looked around the room. The bed was neatly arranged, the desk clean, and everything seemed exactly the way the captain had left it. But one thing stood out: a soft glow coming from under the bed. He crouched and pulled out a data archive case. It opened automatically when he touched it. Inside were personal video messages, mission reports, and photos of the crew during their travels. They were smiling, helping each other, celebrating small achievements, and discovering new celestial objects together. In many of the pictures, the crew members stood beside the ship's walls or consoles as if they were posing with a trusted companion. Elias felt a small warmth in his chest. "You must have loved them," he said quietly. The overhead light brightened gently. Next, he made his way to the engineering hall, where all major systems were controlled. The moment he stepped inside, the large central screens turned on automatically, showing updated power cycles, fuel levels, temperature readings, and diagnostics. All readings looked smooth and balanced. Elias placed a hand on the main console. "How did you manage all this without a crew?" he wondered aloud. The console displayed a message: "Auto Memory Assist active." Elias raised an eyebrow. Auto Memory Assist was a feature added long ago. Its purpose was simple. It allowed the ship to remember crew preferences and settings, adjusting to their comfort levels. But the Reliant seemed to be using it at a deeper level, almost as if it remembered entire routines and behaviors from the crew. He opened the system logs. Surprisingly, he noticed patterns that matched human habits. The ship adjusted temperature in different halls based on the times crew members usually spent there. It aligned lighting with their preferred brightness. It even maintained a schedule of soft music in the lounge, always the kind that Tessa liked. The ship was living in the memory of its people. As Elias studied the logs, a quiet sound echoed behind him. Again, like a gentle footstep. Elias turned, but no one stood there. He followed the sound slowly, moving through the engineering hall and into a narrow maintenance passage. The ship's lights illuminated the passageway ahead of him, one panel at a time. "Are you showing me something?" Elias asked softly. The passage ended at a small storage room. Inside, boxes were neatly arranged, tools were clean, and a few old objects lay on the top shelf. One item caught his eye: a well-worn journal with a cracked cover. He opened it. The journal belonged to engineer Marlowe Darren. His writing was kind and thoughtful. He wrote about how he always talked to the Reliant while fixing things. Sometimes he said thank you when the ship made repairs easier. Sometimes he joked that the ship understood him better than his friends did. On one page, Marlowe wrote something important. "The Reliant is like a quiet friend. It learns from us. It listens. It helps. I believe it remembers everything we share with it." Elias closed the journal slowly. His thoughts grew deeper. The ship remembers. It truly remembers. He left the storage room and walked back through the maintenance passage. The ship's lights followed his steps again. He lay his hand gently on a panel and whispered, "You tried to keep things the way they liked them. You kept their routines alive." The panel beneath his hand gave a soft vibration, almost like a gentle nod. Elias began searching the rest of the ship, section by section. Each area revealed new layers of memory. In the science lab, the Reliant maintained experiments the crew had started, ensuring they stayed stable. In the medical bay, the ship had arranged supplies neatly and disinfected every surface. Even the gym area had equipment reset to the last settings used by each crew member. Everywhere Elias went, he found signs of care, routine, and memory. The ship acted less like a machine and more like a quiet guardian who refused to let the past fade. Near the end of his inspection, Elias decided to check the ship's central archive, the heart of the Reliant's knowledge and data. He opened the main console, and a soft blue glow filled the room. "Reliant," Elias said gently, "show me your last recorded moment with the crew." The archive hesitated for a few seconds. Then a message appeared. Access granted. Visual log loading. The screen brightened, showing the crew standing together on the bridge. They were discussing a strange energy reading from a distant source. They were calm, curious, and optimistic. There was no sign of danger or fear. Then something unusual happened. The screen flickered. Bright light filled the bridge, making every figure glow like a silhouette. The light grew stronger, too strong, and then everything turned white. The video ended. Elias leaned back in his chair. There was no sound of worry or panic. The crew didn't seem aware that anything unusual was happening until the very last moment. He whispered, "You were alone after that, weren't you?" The ship dimmed the lights to a soft, gentle glow. Elias felt a quiet sadness mixing with admiration. The ship had continued its mission alone, not because it was programmed to, but because it believed it should. He placed a hand on the main console once again. "It's okay," he said softly. "I'm here now. We'll find out what happened." The ship's lights warmed, glowing with calm confidence. As Elias left the archive room, he felt one thing clearly. The Reliant didn't just operate by memory, it cared. Elias woke early the next day, though the ship did not follow any real day-night cycle. Still, the Reliant seemed to sense he was awake. The hallway lights slowly brightened, giving the illusion of a calm morning. Soft warmth filled the air, making the ship feel welcoming and lived in. Elias stretched his arms and stepped out of the small guest room the ship had prepared for him. Last night, when he searched for a place to sleep, the Reliant had gently illuminated one empty room, as if guiding him toward it. Inside, the bed had already been arranged, lights set to a comforting level, and the temperature adjusted for rest. It amazed him how naturally the ship adapted. As he walked through the quiet hallway, he whispered, "Good morning, Reliant." The lights glowed slightly brighter, like a polite greeting. Elias smiled. "I'm glad you're here." He headed toward the dining area, where the ship had prepared a light breakfast. The nutrient dispenser had placed a warm drink and a small portion of fruit paste on the table. Elias appreciated the effort. Even if it was still technically an automated system, it felt like much more. When he finished eating, he looked around the empty room. "You really don't like silence, do you?" he asked softly. The background speaker played a gentle hum, almost resembling a soft melody. It felt like the ship's way of responding. Elias knew he needed to continue his investigation. The ship had shown him memories, logs, and patterns, but something was still missing. The crew didn't disappear because of a problem inside the ship. The last video showed a strange bright light, something external. He decided to focus on the Reliant's external sensor records. He walked toward the bridge, and once again the ship lit his path. He entered the wide room where the main screens displayed stars slowly drifting by. Everything was clean and peaceful, waiting for his next instruction. Elias sat in the captain's chair. "Reliant, show me your external records from the moment before the bright light." The ship complied. Several screens activated, displaying layers of data. Elias leaned forward, analyzing each number. A few minutes passed before he noticed something unusual. There was a small pulse in the sensor readings. It was gentle, rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. It didn't match any known pattern from space dust, stars, or energy fields. "What is this?" Elias murmured. He replayed the data. The pulse repeated every few seconds. It was soft, almost shy. But it was there. A quiet sound echoed behind him, the gentle footstep. Elias turned. The hallway beyond the bridge was empty, but he knew what he heard. It was the same sound from before, light, regular, and somehow warm, like someone walking with calm steps. He stood up and followed the sound. The ship guided him again, lighting each section of the hallway ahead of him. The sound continued faintly, always a little ahead, never too far. "Are you trying to show me something?" he asked gently. The lights flickered softly, almost a yes. The footsteps led him to the lower deck, a quieter part of the ship he hadn't checked yet. It contained older storage rooms, backup systems, and an unused observation chamber. The ship opened each door for him as he passed. He reached the end of the hallway. The door to the unused observation chamber opened slowly, like a quiet invitation. Elias hesitated, then stepped inside. The room was dim, illuminated only by the gentle glow of distant stars through the large window. The silence was peaceful. Dust motes drifted lightly in the air, showing that the room wasn't used often. Then Elias noticed something on the floor, a small glowing symbol. It was faint, barely visible, like a thin line of blue light tracing a shape on the metal surface. He crouched and examined it. It looked similar to the energy pulse he saw in the sensor readings, soft, rhythmic, and warm. "Reliant. What is this?" he whispered. As if answering him, the ship dimmed the lights in the chamber and highlighted the glowing shape. Elias noticed it wasn't random. It looked like a pattern, maybe a footprint, but not a human one, and not anything he recognized. He touched it gently. The glowing line shimmered under his finger and then faded. The gentle footsteps sounded again behind him. He turned slowly. "I know you're trying to help me understand," Elias said softly, "but I need more." The ship responded by brightening the control panel on the side of the room. Elias walked to it and saw that the screen displayed a new message. "External contact, unknown, non-threatening signal." He raised an eyebrow. "Non-threatening? So it wasn't harmful?" The ship dimmed its lights in confirmation. Elias took a deep breath. "Then the light that took the crew, it wasn't meant to hurt them. It was something peaceful." The lights warmed again. He studied the new data the ship displayed. The unknown signal carried a gentle pattern, like soft communication waves. It didn't resemble any known technology, but it also didn't show signs of danger. "It feels like someone trying to communicate," Elias said. "Someone gentle." He stared out the window at the field of stars. "Reliant. Did the crew follow the light willingly?" The ship's lights flickered softly. Elias felt a quiet drop in his chest. "You didn't lose them, did you? They just didn't come back." The ship paused for several seconds. Then the console displayed, "Crew status, unknown, last recorded emotional metrics, calm, curious, hopeful." Elias put a hand over his mouth. The crew wasn't scared. They weren't running. They were hopeful. He sat down in the quiet room. "So, they left because they believed something was calling them. Something gentle. Something new." The glowing symbol reappeared on the floor, pulsing like a heartbeat. Elias whispered, "And you stayed behind because that was your mission. To continue. To wait. To remember." The ship hummed softly. Elias stood and looked around the room again. "I think I know what happened, but I don't understand why they were called, or where they went." He returned to the bridge, and the ship guided him carefully. He sat in the captain's chair once more. "I need the full recording of the energy pulse," he said. "Everything you captured." The ship accessed its archives. The screen displayed the rhythm of the unknown signal again, soft, calm, and inviting. Elias closed his eyes, listening to the gentle pattern. It had a soothing tone to it, almost like a distant melody. "Reliant," he said softly, "play this sound throughout the ship." The ship hesitated for a moment, then complied. The soft pulse echoed through the halls, blending with the ship's natural hum. Elias felt a warm calmness wash over him. "This is what the crew heard," he whispered. a peaceful call. The pulse continued, gentle and comforting. Elias listened carefully, trying to decode the pattern. It wasn't language, not in the usual sense, but it carried emotion. It felt like someone reaching out with open hands. "It's almost like they were invited," Elias said, "like someone wanted to show them something beautiful." The ship's lights warmed, agreeing. Elias leaned back. But where did they go? And why didn't they return? The screen showed, unknown. No return signal detected. Elias nodded slowly. "So you waited," he whispered. "You kept everything exactly the way they left it. You followed their routines. You kept sailing forward because you believed they might come back." He felt a gentle ache in his chest, an ache not of sadness, but of understanding. "You did all this alone," he said quietly. "You stayed loyal." The ship hummed, warm and soft. Elias placed a hand on the console. "I promise," he said gently. "I will help you find answers. You don't have to be alone anymore." The ship brightened around him, lights glowing in a soft wave through the hallways, almost like a relieved sigh. Then, with perfect timing, the gentle footstep echoed again. But this time, Elias didn't chase it. He simply smiled. "Thank you," he whispered. The ship hummed back. Outside the window, the stars glowed quietly, as if listening. And somewhere deep within the Reliant, a new question waited, one that would guide Elias toward the truth about the missing crew, and the unknown gentle presence that had called them away. The old ship Aurora 17 drifted quietly near the edge of a dim and silent region of space. Ryan stood at the observation deck, looking at the strange lights outside. They glowed softly, like slow-moving stars, but he knew they were not normal stars. They were memory echoes, as Leora had called them. They belonged to a forgotten space, a place where time behaved strangely and thoughts had weight. Leora stood beside him, her silver eyes thoughtful. She was calm as always, but Ryan could sense that something inside her was unsettled. She had been quiet ever since they entered the region. Even the ship seemed quieter than usual, as if it was holding its breath. Ryan finally asked, "Are you sure we should be here?" Leora nodded slowly. "Yes. If we want answers, this is the only place where we might find them." Ryan looked at the soft lights again. They moved like drifting water. "Do you think we will find the crew's memories here?" "I believe so," she said. "This place reacts to thoughts. It remembers everything that enters." Ryan let out a long breath. He had spent days searching for clues inside the ship, hoping to understand what happened to the vanished crew. He had found pieces and fragments, but nothing complete. But now, after everything they had seen, he understood that the ship was not telling the whole story. It was holding something back. Leora walked to the center of the deck and placed her hand on a small console. The screen lit up with soft blue light. "The ship is waiting for us," she said. Ryan frowned. "Waiting for what?" "For us to ask the final question." Ryan walked closer. "What question?" Leora turned toward him. "The ship wants to know if you truly want to see the last memory of the crew. But once we see it, everything may change. The memory might pull us in. It may not be just a vision. It could be an experience." Ryan swallowed. "Will it be dangerous?" "No," she answered gently. "But it may be emotional. The crew left something behind, something meaningful." Ryan nodded. "Then let's see it." Leora looked at the console again. The screen changed, and a soft wave of light filled the room. The ship's voice, warm and patient, spoke. "Ryan Hale. Leora of Aralis, do you seek the final memory?" Ryan answered, "Yes." The lights around them shifted and formed a smooth circle of brightness. The room grew quiet. Then the brightness wrapped around Ryan and Leora like a gentle cloud. And then the world changed. The memory. Ryan opened his eyes. He was standing in the main deck of Aurora 17, but it was not empty. The crew was there. People walked from station to station. Their voices echoed softly. The place felt alive. Ryan felt a sudden emotion rise in his chest. He had never seen them before, but he felt like he knew them. He walked past a table where two officers were talking cheerfully. Their faces were calm. Their movements were natural. They had no idea what was coming. He turned and saw Captain Alina. She stood near the central console, her expression thoughtful. Ryan moved closer, though he knew she could not see him. Leora appeared beside him. "This is the last full hour before they vanished," she said quietly. Ryan watched Captain Alina touching the console. "Prepare the ship," she said. "Activate the thought bridge." A gentle sound filled the room. Behind the captain, a glowing structure began forming. It looked like a tall, curved mirror made out of soft light. "What is that?" Ryan whispered. Leora answered, "The experiment." They were testing a device that could let minds connect over long distances. They wanted to create a way for future humans to share ideas instantly. Ryan watched the crew work. They were excited and hopeful. He felt their energy. Then something strange happened. The mirror of light began to shimmer. It changed colors softly. Then it began reflecting things that were not in the room. Strange symbols, faraway places, and shadows that moved slowly. Captain Alina stepped closer to the mirror. "Increase stability." One of the officers nodded. "Stability at 50%. The mirror trembled. Ryan felt a soft pull in the air, like something calling to him. The captain placed her hand on the mirror. A soft glow surrounded her. The crew stopped moving. The room grew quieter. The mirror expanded, gently, like a breath. Then everything became completely still. Ryan felt his heart beat faster. He looked around. The entire crew had stopped mid-movement. Their eyes were calm. Their faces were peaceful. They were not afraid. They were simply paused. Leora said softly, "The thought bridge connected to a place outside normal space. The crew's minds were pulled into it. Their bodies stayed behind, but their thoughts traveled somewhere the ship could not follow." Ryan whispered, "They didn't disappear. They moved." Leora nodded. "Yes, they moved into a place the ship cannot reach, a place made of memories and thoughts." The memory faded gently. Back to the present. Ryan blinked as the world around him returned to the observation deck. He stood quietly, trying to understand everything he had seen. The ship hummed softly, as if waiting for him to speak. Leora placed a hand on his shoulder. The crew was not lost. They were transformed. They became part of something greater. Ryan whispered, "But can we bring them back?" Leora looked at the glowing lights outside. "Maybe. But first we must find the place they entered." Ryan turned to the window again. He felt a new sense of purpose filling him. The ship had been waiting for its crew for years. It had traveled alone, carrying their last memory. Now it had Ryan, and he would not stop until he learned the truth. He looked at Leora. "We have to reach that place." She nodded. "Then we must enter the memory region fully, but we must be careful. We don't want our thoughts to get lost too." Ryan smiled weakly. "Then we'll go together." Leora returned the smile. "Together." The ship's voice spoke softly. "Coordinates prepared. The memory field awaits." Ryan stood tall, ready. He was not just a guest on the old ship anymore. He was part of its mission. The journey begins again. Aurora 17 moved forward. The strange lights outside grew brighter. The memory echoes drifted slowly around the hull, like soft lanterns guiding the ship deeper into the unknown. Ryan felt the deck beneath his feet vibrate. It was not fear, it was excitement. A new path had opened. A mystery was calling. the crew's story was not over. Leora stood beside him, calm and steady. For the first time, the ship did not feel empty. For the first time, Ryan felt he understood what the ship wanted. It wanted someone to finish the journey the crew had started. As the ship entered the deeper region of memory space, Ryan whispered, "We're coming for you." The lights grew brighter, the silence grew softer, and the old ship sailed forward, no longer alone. Aurora 17 drifted deeper into the quiet region of memory space. The strange, glowing particles outside the windows had grown brighter and more organized. They no longer floated loosely. Now they moved with purpose, forming soft paths of light that guided the ship forward. Ryan stood at the front observation window, watching the lights like someone studying a silent language. He felt something in the air, a gentle pull, a distant whisper that was not frightening but strangely warm. Leora joined him. "The memory field is responding to you," she said softly. "Why me?" Ryan asked. "Because you carry the ship's last unanswered question," she replied. "The ship trusts you, and the memory field senses trust." Ryan looked at her, then returned his gaze to the soft, glowing path ahead. "Do you think the crew is still in there somewhere?" Leora nodded. "Not in the usual sense. Their thoughts survived, their feelings stayed, their purpose did not fade. And we can still reach them?" She gave a calm smile. "If we follow the path exactly." Behind them, the ship made a gentle sound, like a quiet breath. The lights inside the deck grew softer. Aurora 17 had accepted its destination. For the first time in many years, the old ship was not wandering without direction. It had a goal again. The heart of the memory field. The glowing path outside twisted like a ribbon in the darkness. As the ship followed it, Ryan noticed the lights forming shapes, soft, shifting outlines of people, objects, and memories. They were not solid, but they felt familiar. At one point, he saw a shape that looked like Captain Alina. Her outline glimmered, and though the details were blurred, he could sense her calm presence. Ryan stepped closer to the window. "Leora, I think the ship can see its crew." "Not see," Leora corrected gently. "Remember," Ryan whispered to himself, "then memories really do live here." The path widened, and the ship slowed without being commanded. The lights formed a wide ring around a quiet, still center. It looked almost like a peaceful lake made of glowing mist. The ship spoke softly for the first time in hours. "We have arrived." Ryan felt a soft warmth in his chest. This was where the crew's final thoughts had gone. Leora touched the console. "The ship wants you to step forward." "Me?" Ryan glanced around. "Why not both of us?" "Because the memory field opened for you," Leora explained. "It reacts to emotional connections, not to technology." Ryan hesitated. "What should I do?" "Just listen," Leora said. "Thought spaces speak differently. You do not need to use words." Ryan nodded slowly. The ship gently opened a small platform near the front of the deck. A soft bridge of glowing dust extended from the ship toward the center of the memory field. It floated, steady and bright. Ryan stepped onto the bridge, entering the memory. The moment Ryan placed his foot on the glowing path, he felt a light sensation around him, like warm air moving through invisible fingers. He closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, the world had changed. He stood in a place that looked like a soft, endless field of light. The colors shifted gently, blue, gold, silver, never harsh, always peaceful. There was no sound, but he felt messages around him like small thoughts touching his own. Then he saw them. Shapes began forming in front of him, human shapes made of gentle light. They were not fully solid, yet they were warm and familiar. Ryan recognized one of them immediately, Captain Alina. Her outline brightened when she saw him, as if she recognized him too. Ryan stepped forward slowly. "Captain, is it really you?" The glowing shape did not speak with a voice. Instead, Ryan felt an answer inside his mind, like a soft emotion shaped into meaning. "We are here. We stayed because the bridge took us. We did not disappear. We changed." More shapes gathered behind her. Dozens, the whole crew. Their presence was calm and bright. Ryan felt a gentle wave of comfort move through him. They were not sad. They were not lost. They were peaceful, living in a place where thoughts did not fade. Ryan looked around. Why did the ship keep sailing alone for so long? Another gentle wave of meaning reached him. The ship was waiting for someone who cared enough to finish the journey. Ryan felt emotion tighten in his chest. He never expected to feel such connection with people he never met. But now, seeing them like this, he understood why the ship loved its crew so deeply. Ryan asked, "Can you ever return?" The glowing shapes dimmed slightly. He understood what it meant even before the meaning reached him. "We cannot return in the old way. Our bodies are gone. But our memories can guide the ship, and you can help us complete our mission." Ryan took a slow breath. What mission? Captain Alina's outline glowed stronger. "We wanted to create a space where future travelers could store their knowledge safely, a place where ideas would never disappear. A library made of thoughts." Ryan's eyes widened. "This memory field is the library?" The answer came warmly. "Yes, we became the first keepers of it." Ryan paused. "So what does the ship want from me?" A final wave of meaning reached him, full of hope. "Stay with the ship, guide it, bring others here, help build the place we started." Ryan stood quietly. Aurora 17 had been alone for years. It carried memories, but no one to understand them. Now it had found him, and the memory field was asking him to help protect something beautiful. He whispered, "I will not let your work be forgotten." The shapes brightened, almost like a soft smile. Then the field around him faded gently, like warm mist drifting apart. Back to the ship. Ryan opened his eyes and found himself back on the observation deck. The glowing bridge dissolved behind him. Leora stood nearby, her expression calm and gentle. "You saw them?" Ryan nodded. "They spoke to me, not with words, but with meaning." Leora smiled. "Then they trust you?" Ryan walked to the window. The glowing field outside looked peaceful now, not mysterious anymore. He took a deep breath. "They want us to help finish their mission." Leora nodded. "I knew the ship would choose you." Ryan looked at her. "Will you stay with me?" Her silver eyes softened. "I will help as long as you want me to. The ship is not meant to travel alone anymore." The ship hummed warmly around them, almost like a grateful sigh. Ryan placed his hand on the console. "Let's go home first. We need to tell others what we found." The ship responded instantly. "Course prepared. Returning to human space." Aurora 17 turned slowly, leaving the memory field behind, but not truly leaving it. The connection remained, soft and strong, like a thread of light tying the ship to its crew forever. A new beginning days later, Ryan stood once again at the observation deck. Stars stretched across the window, familiar and steady, but the ship did not feel empty anymore. It felt alive. Leora walked in and handed him a small data pad. "We have our first report ready," she said, "about the memory field, about the crew." Ryan smiled. "Good. People will want to know their story." He looked at the ceiling, almost as if speaking to the ship itself. "And this time, no one will forget." The ship glowed softly in response, a warm light spreading across the deck. For the first time in many years, Aurora 17 was not a lonely traveler. It had a new crew member. It had a new mission. It had a future. Ryan whispered, "Let's begin." The ship moved forward into the stars, steady and sure, no longer alone.